All right, so we are back with Prime Professionals with Mark Williams.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
And of course, Monique Rubain with Elite Realty Partners. So we are here today with Ron Gladden of GGR Home Inspections. He has been a very instrumental speaker over the last 2 or 3 months for our 8-hour home buyers workshop. And we received so much amazing feedback from the speaker, from the attendees, just how thorough he was, and they can see his passion, as he educates them. So we thought it would be so befitting to have him here on our podcast. We have been trying to get him on, and we finally made it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So yes. So Ron, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into, home inspections.
Yeah.
Well, first off, thank you guys for having me. Amazing
Absolutely.
studio you guys have set up here, and it's just a blessing to be able to do what I do, right, every single day. So I've only been in the game about 3 years, believe it or not. I started 2020, right? I'm originally from Washington, D.C. I've been gone from there for about 20 years.
Okay.
I did a 10-year bid, I guess, in the military a little bit.
Really? What branch?
Thank you.
Army.
Thank you for your
Awesome. Thank you
service.
so much for
Love
your
that.
service.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
I definitely enjoyed it, but I made rank pretty fast. I was a staff sergeant at 22, and then I just went on to look for more challenges. So I went through corporate. Yeah, man, I've always been ambitious. I've been working since I was 13.
Right,
Wow.
right.
Like
Fantastic.
full-time working.
Full-time, right.
Yeah, I was managing the Domino's at 15.
I love that.
Yeah, so not to get into all those weeds.
Right.
That's the first I heard that part of the story.
Right. Real interesting. I
I've
love
been managing I started managing the Domino's. I was working 40, 60 hours,
Yep.
coming home after midnight. So I always had a very strong work ethic.
Right, good.
And enjoyed making money.
Exactly.
Right? That was really the driver. I thought that if I could work hard,
Yeah.
I could make a lot of money. Of course, that's a whole nother topic. But I went into corporate for about 10 years, right? After I left the military, I got out of the military at about 30. Finally decided to go to school. I originally didn't go to school. But while I was in the military, I jumped in and out of college.
Okay.
So I would take a class here and there. We had great benefits when it came to school. But right after I got out, I did get 2 degrees. One while I was actually serving in Iraq, and then the other one when I came to Miami. I picked up a job with Caterpillar down here. Okay. And that's what brought me to Miami. I was like single guy, I got my boys, but I was still single at the time. Why not go to Miami? So
Why not?
Why not?
Makes sense, right?
It makes sense.
We're the city to be. Right.
I'm from DC. I didn't have a place to call home. So yeah, I came on down here in 2012. I stayed in corporate for a while. Worked with another company, huge company, not to keep name dropping the big companies, but huge companies, continued in logistics. And one day I just needed to make a change, a serious change. Mm-hmm. I got a call from I actually got a call from a police officer. I was at work, got a call from a police officer. My son was in trouble. He had stolen one of our vehicles, his brother's vehicle. And I just walked out of the job that day. I actually didn't have a plan. And we're talking about walking out of a multi-six-figure job.
Wow.
So family was definitely important to me. That's who I always worked for.
Right.
Right. And at the point where that was not effective anymore, then I needed to make a huge change in my life. And that's what I did. So I walked out. I had a buddy that had been doing home inspections for a couple years. So I was tracking what he was doing. I mean, I'm praising my guy. Right. I'll name drop him a little bit. John Watson. He's up in Georgia with Whole House Home Inspections. So we were both in Amazon. That's how we met. And I was like a mentor for him there, and then he ended up being a mentor for me in this space.
Love
wow.
it.
Right?
Love
So
it,
the
love
relationship reciprocated.
Right,
Full
right,
circle.
Full circle. And he was great at this. I was like, bro, I don't even know how to hang up a picture.
Right.
I don't do any
So that just goes to show there is hope.
Absolutely.
Right? You don't have to know it all.
Correct.
There is hope,
Correct.
when you are aspiring to do something, as long as you just stay focused.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And your circle of influence, right?
Right.
Also
Right.
is
Mentor.
really, really key. If you are giving, right, and not always taking, right, it comes back
The
full
law.
circle. Absolutely it does. So
Because I would have never thought that I
Appreciate
would have
that.
been a home inspector.
And I
Right.
never thought I would have been a realtor.
You know what I'm saying? You just don't know where you land. You got to take a walk.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Love
it's been great for the last 3 years. I mean, I opened the company from ground zero. I definitely learned everything I needed to learn in the space to get started.
Great.
COVID was a little bit favorable for me because I spent that first 5 months just studying.
Okay.
So when you think about a person studying 12 to 16 hours a day,
Right.
What I did was equivalent to somebody kind of being in the field for 2 to 3 years. So I was able to kind of fast track my knowledge.
Right.
And get some application, being tricky.
Right.
I flew up to Georgia, went on some inspections with him. I partnered and did some things locally. I went to Home Depots to look at material. However creative I can get to make sure that I can provide a valuable service.
Right.
And then, over 1,000 inspections later in 3 years.
Hold on, let's stop right there.
Yeah.
Let's not slide by that.
Yeah.
Over 1,000
inspections.
inspections in 3 years.
Yeah.
That's
That
fantastic.
is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really is. And so, when we talk about your history in the work, I just got to say, folks, like Monique, I've had the opportunity to talk to Ron at the homebuyer education classes that we do, and, we'll continue to do as well. And I must say, I've dealt with inspectors before, but there is not one inspector that I've had that I've worked with and had the opportunity to work with that really gets involved in the property and gives you as much detail of what's going on with that property as this gentleman. And I mean, just a passion there when we're walking through the properties and he's giving the information to a lot of the first-time home buyers. It's just amazing to see the information that he shares. So I definitely love what you're doing, man. Fantastic.
Thank
I love
you.
the history.
And you're saying get involved, right?
Yes.
He gets so in tuned and so involved as if it is his own property that he is buying.
Correct.
Which actually leads me into kind of how you decided to get into, or your experience from previously on how you kind of got into inspection. How was that experience when you ended up purchasing a property down here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which kind of.
I know that story.
But the reason I asked that question is because, there are times where individuals get into a specific field, and when you see that they're so passionate about it, there's a driving force behind that where they may have experienced something that they did not like.
Correct.
So now they put themselves in that position so that they can provide a better service to those individuals, which is why you are so passionate about educating, not just doing the inspection, but really educating the home buyers when they're going through the process.
Okay. Yes, in 2018, I bought my first property.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I was actually a big advocate of not owning your own home. So if I knew about Grant Cardone some time back, maybe that would have made sense, and I probably wouldn't have bought that. I would have bought a quad.
Right.
Listen, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that.
But and leverage my VA, right? Okay. A lot better than what I did. But today I still got a nice bit of equity like everybody else because of when I bought. But I had some lessons learned, right? I bought 2018. I was up in Georgia for a couple years. I took an assignment up there with the company I was with. And I didn't want to be back in the cold. I didn't like the traffic up in the Atlanta area. So I said, I need to come back to Florida. So I contacted a realtor that I knew, like we all do, right? We know somebody knows
Everybody
a realtor.
knows somebody.
Right.
But he wasn't actually practicing, so he partnered with another realtor. But they got the deal done for me in 30 days, right? I bought sight unseen. I was literally sending them all the houses that I was interested in.
Right.
And said, hey, see if we can get this one, see if we can get this one. The one I really wanted, actually I'm glad I didn't get because it would have been too expensive for me and I probably would still be locked into my job.
Got it.
Right? But the one I ended up getting was perfect. It's a 3-2, 2,200 square feet, West Broward, and we really love our neighbors and enjoy the neighborhood. But when we first moved in, we got a home inspection just like everybody else. Got the 4-point, got the wind mid, everything they tell you to do. I needed to go do some training coming back down. So I went to Tampa for 6 weeks. So I bought the house. We closed 6:25. We flew in that morning, walked the property, went and got the keys, closed, got the keys. And then we left and went to Tampa. Never saw the house again until August. The alarm went off probably about the third or fourth week of July. And I sent somebody by there to check it out. And everything was okay, right? But it wasn't. It's just that they didn't see that it wasn't okay. We popped open the garage. They made sure all the openings were locked. It was actually water damage going on in the inside from the AC that was on the second floor.
And that set the alarm off?
And that set the alarm off because the ceiling collapsed.
Got it.
Yeah,
And made that
right
sound
in front
that
of the,
triggered
right in
everything.
front of the
Sensor.
sensors.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
right in front of the sensor. But it was, I didn't actually check like the snapshot picture of it, and I should have. So when we walked into 100-degree weather. We know what August is like.
Yep.
So we immediately closed the door. After we checked the house, we closed the door and went to a hotel. Luckily, I was financially set, and
Right.
we had an AC installed the next day. But most people aren't able to do that.
Exactly.
And if I had read my inspection report, I probably would have noticed the AC unit with a bucket underneath it,
Right.
to
All
catch
those
All those
things.
things that's just so visible.
Right.
Yes. And the inspector, he didn't do any fault of his own. It's all in interpretation, right? That's
Got
the
it.
thing about this field. It's very subjective. What some people feel is important may not be important to the other person.
I like that.
So I didn't blame the company when it happened. I just said, man, maybe I just should have took a better look at it. And then when I looked at the flow of their report, all things that I took a look at in my company when I opened it up, it was all the pictures was actually at the end, and it was like an index, and you had to kind of match it up to the defect.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
if you're a brand new buyer, you
Yeah,
don't know
you
what
might
you're
not be
doing.
able to do that.
Looking at-
Correct.
Exactly.
Got it.
You're just gonna see pictures.
Right.
So, long story short, I did end up losing insurance because I was a busy person.
Right.
I hired an adjuster because my realtor friend said, hey, this guy can help you out, take care of it all. Me, I was like, dude, I just want to pay for it and get it done, fix my wall, my ceiling,
Right.
whatever. He's like, no, they got it. They'll take care of it. These folks were trying to run it up.
Yep.
That's when I
That's
had
how
a
they get
tough
paid.
lesson.
Public
Exactly.
adjusters.
Yes, I had a very tough lesson with them. Lost
So-
my insurance.
You talk. I appreciate the story because in your story, it really raised a lot of red flags, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that
So
was-
one of them is, we're coming right now in this season where it's reaching 109 degrees, 110 degrees, and it is hot, right?
Yep.
Miami, yes, but it's getting hotter and hotter. What's your advice for a first-time home buyer, or even buyers now who have a property and are dealing with maybe AC issues, or what temperatures they should keep the house at right now? What's your advice related to some of that for a first-time home buyer?
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I've been posting in probably on a weekly basis something about HVAC systems or HVAC ducts, because one is critical to us down here in Florida with all
Yes.
the humidity, but on the other side, air quality and things like that. In this situation where our temperatures are very high, I always talk about how dirty these systems are every
Wow.
time I see them. Even mine, I have gotten behind on it, and it's very easy. Because what doesn't happen when we call out a technician to do our service, our annual or semi-annual service, is there's no cleaning involved in that service
Right.
unless you specifically ask
Tell
for
them.
it.
Got it.
Exactly. Right. So the inside of our systems have our dust on the floor, dead skin, all that stuff getting caught up inside of the evaporator coils inside of the system. Very dusty, very dirty, and
Right.
it blocks them up. They need to breathe. And when it's this hot, everything's going to work harder.
Right.
So if they cannot breathe on whether it's the system on the inside or the outside, they both need to be able to breathe. So the airflow is critical for them. So making sure that they get service, right, is
Okay.
one. A lot of us don't do.
Right.
Right. I slip up on it. I don't even think I made my call for this summer. Still need to make that call. But service is the easiest thing, and making sure we're doing regular cleaning, to make sure your systems are operating as optimal as possible.
Okay.
They say 12 to 15 years on average for the systems down here, but a lot of times they fail much quicker just because of
Because
cleaning.
of the heat.
The heat. Okay.
And the heat outside, too.
Yeah. Yeah, the struggle. So the cleaning aspirates the issue the issue is aspirated when you don't clean it or
Right.
service it, and then we have the temperatures that we have.
Okay, understood. Okay, good. So we talk about the AC units, and what are some of the other things? You're walking into a home, you get a call, person wants to go ahead and get an inspection done. What are your first steps with that client? Walk us through what that looks like.
So because I came from operations, I'm a very process-driven person.
Love it.
A lot of the times, a person may not speak to me or one of my inspectors until we arrive that day.
Okay.
Unless they really have some questions or concerns, our call center will take care of, most of those questions that folks would ask when they're scheduling.
Okay.
Now, when we meet the clients, our initial thing is to try to get a feel for how the property is going to be used.
Okay.
Right? Are we going to have children in there? Is this a growing family? Is this a family that's older? Do we have stairs in there?
Right.
Understanding the use of the property is huge for sometimes just making your clients, feel educated about the things that are really going to impact them. Right? So if you got a pool, safety big when it comes to pools. Children, we always have a conversation around those things. Many pools don't have enclosures around them. We don't have alarms. So if I can find out how you're going to use the property, in the future, if you're going to use it for Airbnb,
right,
that's a big one because that's kind of like a commercial use for it.
Correct, exactly.
And a lot of people are in
coming
that
in
business.
and out, right.
So I'm always talking about liability, right? You can be sued when people come on your property and something happens.
Yeah.
Right? So folks don't think about it. They just think about getting the bag.
Right.
Yeah, so we got loose pavers and stuff like that. They trip up on your property, and you might be getting a call. It might be a lawsuit, right? So we'll have those type of conversations as well, and I'll really talk about certain things that they should do in order to protect themselves and the property.
Okay. Good.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
You did. Yes, you did. And that's very vital. It's not just about getting the inspection, but I love how you really get to know the client and what their purpose is for that specific property. You don't hear, or I have not yet heard, an inspector speak on that and having that conversation with the buyer to see what the use is so that you can kind of have that conversation with them so that they are aware of, the legalities or, you're not an attorney or anything or anything like that, but just kind of advising them or informing them on, why this is important.
Yes.
The why behind it, not just you want to get it replaced, but why do you want to, look at that and look into getting it replaced?
Yes.
That's key.
There was actually a realtor recently that we had a similar conversation like this. Right. She had a tough client, right? He was actually prior military like me. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can definitely relate, to some of the things that he's calling out.
Right.
But sellers, they also sometimes choose their buyers the same way, right? They love their property. Like, they've done work on this property.
Yes.
Right? And sometimes they don't want to depart with it. They just have a reason why they have to depart. So they want to make sure they put somebody in place that may mimic the same sentiment that they have about that property, especially if they raised a family there.
Correct.
Tons of memories. So in this case, they chose the veteran because of the reasons similar to them. The house was dress right dressed when you go in. It was very clean cut across the board. When you think about military folks, we're dress right dressed. We're very clean in most cases, right? We take care of things. We dot our I's and cross our T's.
Yeah.
And so when I was speaking to the realtor and we were kind of talking about, the behavior of the veteran, and then she didn't understand why the sellers had chose them.
Right.
I was like, they probably chose them because even though they're not military, they manage their house in that fashion.
Yep, exactly.
Way.
And then he's military, so they knew exactly what he would do when he came to the property.
Right.
And while I was there, he's there with a ruler, tape measure?
Tape measure.
He's out there measuring stuff. I mean, the house was fully remodeled, but he still had some plans for it. But yeah, a lot of people choose based off of, making sure that somebody comes in and does the same things that they would want to do with the property.
So you mentioned a few minutes ago liabilities, right?
Yep.
You're licensed?
Yes.
Are you also insured?
Definitely.
Okay, so that brings me to the point. Folks that are listening and are first-time home buyers, making sure that your home inspector and their team is not just licensed. You want to make sure that they're insured. So talk to me a little bit about, when I say insured, what does that mean for you as a home inspector?
So in the state of Florida, the requirements is pretty straightforward. You got to carry $300,000 worth of errors and emissions insurance.
Okay.
And then you possibly have some general liability on there as well.
Okay, got it.
So we carry what the requirement is. It covers, you think about the dwelling costs on a home. If you lost it, it's nowhere near what you actually paid for it. So it'll cover a home if need be.
Good. So licensed and insured, folks.
Yes.
Please do not forget that. It's not just about having someone that's licensed. Licensing doesn't necessarily mean that the company or the individual is insured when they're on your property and doing a physical inspection as well. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. And that's different from like a warranty that a company may offer. So so when they say licensed and insured, the warranty is different. Some people think that the warranty is the insurance.
The insurance. Good point.
Yeah,
okay, love that.
Warranty is not the insurance.
So let me ask you, types of when people think of doing a home inspection, right? They may look at it more so as for a resale property.
Yep.
Right. But so often I come across buyers who would say, "Oh, well, if I'm buying a new construction, they're building it from the ground up? Why do I need a home inspection?"
Exactly, it should be brand new, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Like there should be no issues,
No
nothing, right? So can you talk about the importance, right? We do have some first-time home buyers who are viewing this. Can we discuss the importance of why they should still, perform a home inspection? At what phase should they be performing that home inspection?
So if we're just talking about new construction, or let's just say in general, you don't know the property, right? So you should have somebody go in there that has experience in construction that can go in there and give you an assessment about that property on a single day. Things can change in the future, you know. It's just that single day that person is going in there to give you as much information as they can. And as far as when it comes to new construction, humans put it together. It's just new material, right? And we all make mistakes.
Right.
No inspector is perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'll just rather, hopefully I miss a loose fixture and not, a major problem in the home that either puts somebody at risk. But that's why it's critical to be focused when you go into these properties as well. Yes. A lot of people want to follow inspectors, ask them questions along with it. But if the inspectors are really seasoned, they have a process that they're following, and their mind is at certain, places when they step in front of something.
So I remember,
yeah, you're good.
I remember when you had one of the homebuyer education classes, and you specifically said that if an inspector goes into your property and is there only 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, I don't know
that is possibly a real red flag and an issue, right?
Yeah.
So how long does a typical inspection take, or what should clients be aware of?
I say an hour per 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
And that's for finished spaces.
Okay.
So we're not talking about your garage, your time on the exterior, nor your roof.
Okay.
So
good.
about an hour per 1,000 square feet.
Okay, so folks, if your inspector comes out there, drinks a cup of coffee, and leaves in 5 to 10 minutes, run. Okay, that's not the type of home inspector you want.
Get your money back.
Get your money back as quick as possible.
I will add this though. Many home inspectors use modern software, so they build reports on site. We build reports on site. So our time on site can vary from somebody that does not write in an inspection on site.
Okay.
Right? It usually doesn't change that much. I would say 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how fast they are through their template. But if they are just coming there taking pictures, depending on the size of the place, they can get out pretty fast.
Okay.
So I would throw that tidbit in there to say.
Okay, fair enough.
Understand how they're operating.
Okay,
Yeah.
love it.
So going back to the new construction, can you give an example of where you performed an inspection on new construction and you may have found something, serious that needed to be
Every
rectified?
one.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think I've had many new constructions where it was just like, it was always something major. And the major can be, when it comes to new construction, in the cosmetic form. Because it's new construction.
Right.
So one home we did up in Port St. Lucie Way, when we went in, the floors, you can just look at the grout, and the floors were uneven all the way through, right? The grouting was off. I mean, it was pretty poor insulation across the board.
Okay.
And she was, the buyer was definitely upset with that. She had just flew in to do her blue tape, and kind of get ready to get to the closing table in a few days. But that held them back. They had to redo the whole floors.
Wow.
Another one, luckily they didn't put in their floor, because as we put water in upstairs, there was actually a leak. I don't know if it caused it because of the water upstairs draining out or whatever, but there was a leak coming from underneath the island.
Wow.
And if the floor was in place, that leak could have actually been there for months before they actually found out that it was there.
Okay.
You know, roof issues, but it's a very limited in some areas like the electrical panel. Right? But I don't expect to find many issues in the electrical panel. That one I haven't found. Usually it's large cosmetic items
Right.
that we usually find the problems for new construction.
Okay. So, client now is looking to hire you to do a home inspection.
Okay.
One of the questions that I've always had come up from a client, a first-time home buyer, is, okay, I did my home inspection report, but the inspection report didn't list the cost associated with maybe repairing an item or even the life expectancy, right, of that particular unit or item, whatever it might be. Talk to me about the life expectancy of certain things that we should look at, or a first-time home buyer should look at when they're having a home inspection done, and some of the costs that you've seen as well over the work that you've done.
So, I mean, in Florida, since we have 4-point inspections, this is actually one of the few places where you estimate like the life expectancy of mechanicals. It's actually not a part of our standard operating procedures.
Interesting.
Appliances are also not a part of the standard operating procedures, but since it's a like industry expectation in this area, we do it, right? We do it for the insurance companies, we do it for our clients. But we shouldn't be held to it because there's many factors that can impact whether it actually lasts for that long. We're just giving you an average life that we know of that you can Google on the internet, right?
Okay,
for
got
any
it.
of these factors.
So if they don't have that, they can search it on Google and see what should be the life expectancy of those items, right?
But we do provide it.
Okay, you do provide it.
So we provide it we give you an average for HVAC, things like cast iron pipes, you know, things that are kind of industry standard stuff that are problematic. Roofs, especially because that's big business, right? Out here, big conversation. So a roof will give you the average cost of any system. You know. In Florida, we got our flat roofs, our concrete tile, our asphalt shingles, and our metal roofs are becoming a lot more popular now. You know, but it really depends on factors around those properties on how those mechanicals actually perform and how they last. So a concrete tile roof, we all know, is around 30 years, but there's been some up and down talks with insurance companies on what they're going to accept. I think in May they had tried to go down to like 20 years for asphalt shingles. Maybe there was a lot of pushback there. I haven't been able to do much research on it, but I saw that it got bumped back up for,
and no longer the 20 years,
I think it's 25
25 now.
Yeah,
Okay.
For the shingle or for
Yeah,
concrete?
for shingle.
For shingle.
Yeah, because the 20-year, it actually bumped out a lot of people. So I heard that, and we're talking rumors right now, but I heard that a lot of people were, getting into tough situations. You got the Florida
with the insurances.
My Safe Home program now that's being pushed.
PACE program as well. Absolutely.
That's being pushed to try to help homeowners to, get their insurance lowered. I mean, we're seeing folks that are getting 50% increases year over year.
Easily.
Yep. You got these massive homes that are going from maybe $8,000 to $17,000.
Yeah.
For insurance?
For insurance.
That's just crazy, but... So we will give you some type of life expectancy. The things that we estimate on the report are the mechanicals, the big stuff, HVAC, roof, water heater, and some electrical, depending on what it is.
Right.
If there's a lot of labor-intensive things, I honestly push back and say, hey, go get some estimates, right? I want you to really know if you can afford the house, because the biggest thing that I see people walking away, they see a lot of things on a report, but that doesn't mean anything. You put the home under contract, right? That means it met your needs at some point.
Right.
You loved it.
Correct.
Right? So when we come out there, it's just information. Make a decision on whether you can afford it. Because that's really what it is at that point.
At the end of the day.
Right. And that just goes
or possibly
into...
credits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or having the seller repaired before closing. So, that just also goes into, from a realtor standpoint, educating the buyer before the inspection, letting them know, this is an informational, the contract is an as-is contract. The seller is not obligated to, give a credit or repair anything.
Yep.
This is for informational purposes, to inform you of what you are walking into. You're going to get this report back where it's going to be 45 pages long, but the inspector is here to just literally pinpoint every single item, whether it's scuffs on the walls or little, holes in the walls. But what we're looking at is the major ticket items that's going to cost you, as you mentioned. So it also goes back to the realtor educating the buyer before the inspection. Which now leads me to ask you, as a realtor, how can we come in? Well, I guess I kind of just gave an answer, but from your perspective, how can we as realtors come in to also assist during that inspection process with what are some other things that we can educate our clients on to be able to, make it a more seamless process, or even when we're going over, which I think is the main thing, going over the report with the buyer, how do you suggest a realtor to kind of go over that with the buyer to where it doesn't make them feel overwhelmed or
Great question.
So I can definitely tell when
it's a lot on the report.
Yeah, man. I can tell when somebody hasn't.
I'll be calling. Hey, listen, man, just go over this, please. Just take it and go over it.
Especially for our newer realtors. Let's say that because we all started somewhere, right? So especially for speaking to the newer realtors who may not know, and they get this report and I'm like, well, shoot, I don't. Oh my gosh, how much? What would you suggest to them or recommend to them?
So. I mean, it kind of goes to that line that I said, hey, make sure that, you know why you put a contract on that home. Right? The information you get from the report is going to tell you maybe some things you should work on after you move in the house. It's going to tell you what type of materials on that property so you can know what replacement costs may be for you in the future. Right? So it's very informational, but everyone tends to just stick to what's wrong. Right. I mean, I can show you an email where I have a realtor that said, it seems like you're only talking about what's wrong. Well, I think that's partially why you hired. But, because I got to talk to you about what's wrong, especially if it's something that's going to impact the deal as far as you getting insurance.
Correct. Absolutely.
And that's where that conversation was with that realtor. But essentially, it's information.
Yes.
You're armed with information, and now you go and make a decision. You either negotiate,
an informed decision,
or you take on these items and you decide how you're going to pay for them in the future. It's not a good or bad, and we won't use those words when we're on the
or
inspection.
pass or fail.
Or pass or fail.
I hear that so often. Like, hey, the inspection passed.
Look
like,
at it pass.
Your
standards.
Exactly.
What standards are we looking at? Right? Is there a test that we need to be aware of?
No, I wasn't aware of it, but. That's honestly what I would say. The realtor just needs to make sure they set up that expectation that it is information only, right? What you decide to do with the information is totally up to you.
Great.
It's not the inspector's job to tell you whether to purchase that property or not.
Good.
I just want to tell you if there's anything unsafe, right? Any performance issues, and what you actually have at the property and what you don't have. That's really it when you think about the inspection.
So definitely not a pass or fail, but more information sharing than anything else, and education. I love that. Ron, listen, thank you so much.
Yes, no problem, guys.
I know you got your other inspection up in Belglade.
Yeah, I'm going to Belglade.
So we don't want to hold you up. But Ron Gladden with GGR Home Inspections, give us your contact information for the folks that are watching us.
Where can the people get with you?
Oh, definitely. You guys can follow us on Instagram, ggrhomeinspections.com. You got our website, ggrhomeinspections.com. That was the website. You can follow us at GGR Home Inspections. Check out our website, though. We have about 300 blog articles on there now.
Awesome.
We're really trying to educate out there and make sure folks know about their homes. And you can also hit us up at 305-908-7050 to talk to our call center to schedule. Or you can email us at info@ggrhomeinspections.com.
Good.
Awesome.
And so we're going to be sharing this on our Instagram page for Monique and myself, but also on YouTube as well as our channels so that you can see the full video. I really appreciate you taking the time out. We've been after you for a minute now to get you on. So I know a lot of the first-time home buyers that are out there are loving this information right now. So thank you again, man.
My pleasure. Thank you guys
so
for
much,
having me.
Ron.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Mark Williams here, Prime Professionals, and Monique Rubain. Thank you again.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Peace.